Don't you love these stories of people seeing the Lord and then recognizing him? Because they thought Jesus was gone forever. And then they see him again, but don't recognize him at first. And then something happens, and there's this flood of joy and relief and love. And there's also a different kind of recognition, a kind of awe, where they realize, we saw him die on the cross, and now he rose again. This is not just a normal human being. This is someone special. So today, we're going to talk about the 3 stories from our lessons and think about how we also can come to recognize the Lord. So in the first story, Mary Magdalene is at the tomb weeping, just distraught, so sad. The Lord had died on the cross, and now his body was even gone, so she couldn't just care for his body. And as she's weeping, she stoops down and looks into the tomb again, and she sees 2 angels. But in her sadness, she doesn't even realize she's seeing something amazing. There are angels there, and they're talking to her, but she's just sad. And the angels ask her why she's weeping. Now we might say, why are they asking this question? Surely they know. They're angels. But it's useful to think about things from the angels' perspective. They're in the tomb, they see Mary, and Mary is about to turn around and see the Lord standing behind her. So the angels are seeing her crying about how the Lord is gone forever, and there's the Lord alive and well behind her. And it's useful to pause at this point in the story and recognize times when we're in that state, like Mary. We're just so upset, and the Lord is gone or far away or never existed. We just can't, and maybe he's right behind us if we can learn to turn to him and see him. Now, Mary does turn and see him, but doesn't recognize him right away. She assumed he was the gardener, and she's still focused on this task. She's got to care for his dead body. And so she asks this man who's here, did you take the body away? Can I get it from you and take it away? And it was only when Jesus said her name that she finally realized it was him. So in just a minute, I'm going to ask you to do something in your pews. And I want to give you the instructions first, and then I'll say go, and you'll do it. Because I want you to have the feeling, I want to remember what it feels like to have someone who knows you and loves you say your name. So, if you came by yourself today and you're not sitting near anyone who you know or who knows you, that's fine. You can just think about someone who loves you and knows you and how they would say your name. Or if you're at home watching the service online and you're by yourself, you can think about someone who knows and loves you. How would they say your name? And it doesn't have to be someone who's still alive in this natural world. It can be someone in the spiritual world. How would they say your name? And if you are here or you're at home with people who know you and love you, I invite you in just a second to say their names, and they'll say your name. Get the instructions, just quietly say a couple of names back and forth. See how it feels. So, go. All right. Thanks for doing that. Now, maybe that felt a little bit silly, but I hope it also felt good. Good to have someone who knows you say your name. And maybe it can help us to imagine what it would be like for the Lord to say our name. Because the Lord knows us better than anyone else. What would the love in his voice sound like as he says your name? And we can have that experience of the Lord saying our name when we read his word. Because have you ever had that experience where someone says something about you that's true that you didn't realize yourself? And we might feel a little bit shy because it's about us, but we didn't even realize it. And maybe we smile a little bit because it's true. They are right that is how we are. We can have that same experience when we read the Lord's word. Certain stories or certain teachings, we can go, wow, the person who wrote this knows me deeply, understands me. He knows my name. So, how can we recognize the Lord? One way is that when the Lord calls us by name and we feel known by him. For each of these, I'm going to give you a hand motion that you can do with me. I invite adults too to do hand motions so you can remember, how do we recognize the Lord? When he calls us by name, you can put your hands up by your ear. When he calls us by name and we feel known by him. Story number 2, the story of the disciple Thomas. The other disciples got to have this experience of seeing the Lord with their eyes and even reaching their fingers into the scars in his hands from when he was on the cross. And so they tell Thomas, "We've seen the Lord." But Thomas, he says he won't believe it until he gets to see it with his own eyes and feel Jesus with his own hands. And now Thomas does get to physically touch the Lord and physically see him. And we don't get to do that. But the Lord actually said it's better that way. He said to Thomas, "Happy or blessed are they who have not seen and yet believed." So how can we do that? How can we get to that point? Let's try to picture Thomas's experience, reaching his fingers into the holes in the Lord's hands. So feel the middle of your palms and imagine there were a scar there. Do you have any scars on your body? Do you know how you got those scars? Usually, scars happen because we've been hurt, or maybe we got sick and had to have a surgery. It might be that your mama has a scar on her tummy from when she gave birth to you, or to one of your siblings. Or if she doesn't have a scar on her tummy, she might have stretch marks on her skin, or maybe the veins in her legs look different because of that. People have markings on their bodies from the things they do to love and care for other people. Those things last. And this was definitely the case with the markings on the Lord's body. They showed just how much he'd cared for other people and just how much he'd gone through because he loved people. And so then look at your hands and think about what you've gone through. What are the hard things you've gone through? What are the scars you can see and the scars that other people can't see, but you know about? And think about the scars that other people have. What things have they gone through that we can see? What things have they gone through that we can't see when they were trying to love other people and it hurt them in the process? And finally, think about the Lord and all that he went through for us because he loves us, because he loves you and all people. The reason we can go through hard things and it can still be worth it in the end and good things can come out of it is because of the Lord. If he had not come into this world and done what he did, our efforts would be worth nothing. And when we can see how the Lord has led us through hard things and see how he went through hard things for us so that we can have a good life, then, like Thomas, we can say, "This is my God, my Lord and my God." So how can we recognize the Lord? In this case, you got two hands. One hand, you rub the palm of it and think about what you've gone through that's hard, that the Lord's helped you get through. And the other palm, think about what the Lord's gone through for you. So, do it with me if you would. How can we recognize the Lord? Think about what we've gone through that the Lord's helped us with, and think about what the Lord went through for us. All right, last story, the fishing story. Some of the disciples decided to go fishing, and they fished all night and caught nothing. Not a single fish. These were professional fishermen, and they still caught not a single fish. And in the morning, the Lord was standing on the shore and called out to them, and they had a conversation, but they didn't realize who it was. They didn't recognize him. And he told them to cast the net on the right side of the boat, and they did, and then they caught so many fish that they didn't have the strength to pull it into the boat. And when that happened, John, who's also called the disciple whom Jesus loved, said, "It's the Lord." And the thing that made John realize this was that they were working on something, trying to be useful, and it wasn't going well. And then someone got involved, and suddenly it went miraculously well. And then he knew it must be the Lord because he'd had this experience before. There was another time when they went fishing, the disciples, and they caught nothing. And the Lord got involved, and they caught so many fish. And another time, there were thousands of people who needed food. They were hungry, like you might be hungry right now, wishing you could have more chocolate and sweets. And so many people to feed, how are they going to do it? All they had was a bit of bread and fish. But the Lord gave it to the disciples, and they gave it to the people, and they kept giving it to the people. And there was enough food for all the people to have as much as they wanted, and there were baskets left over. So when John saw something go miraculously well that had not been going well before, he knew it's the Lord. And so we also can recognize the Lord when we're trying to do something useful and it goes so much better than it was going before. An example of this is times when we have conversations and it feels like we're fishing all night and catching nothing. We're trying to figure something out with one person or with a group of people, and it's getting nowhere. No good ideas, no progress, and probably some grumpy feelings involved, some not so nice comments being made. And then maybe we take a break. Maybe we breathe and think and pray and realize that we've said some things that were unkind or unfair. And then we come back to the conversation with more love from the Lord for these people, more patience, more compassion. And it's a different conversation. We say, I'm sorry for how I spoke. Can I try again? And then there's lots of useful insights. There's lots of ideas for what we can try. There's a net full of large fish that we suddenly caught. In those kinds of moments, we can learn to say, oh, it is the Lord. And this connects to our first lesson, or a lesson from the teachings for the new church. The passage said that what makes us able to recognize and acknowledge the Lord on the inside and have our ideas of God come to life is when we're willing to receive the Lord's love for other people and act on it. When we don't just know things about God, but we receive His love and do things for people that's loving because of Him. Then our minds go from being like a garden in wintertime, which 3 weeks ago, look at our gardens, nothing growing, cold, long, dark. But then add the warmth of the Lord's love for other people, and we get a beautiful garden in springtime, like we see in the church today, we see outside the church today. That's the shift that can happen when the Lord's love comes into us and we let it come out toward other people. So how can we recognize the Lord? Let's go through all three ways. And you can do the hand motions again with me if you're not too embarrassed. The first one, when the Lord calls us by name and we feel that He knows us. When we remember the hard things we've gone through that the Lord's helped us get through, and all the hard things the Lord went through for us. And the final one is when we're trying to act in a loving way and the Lord makes it go so much better. Like we're trying to do something useful and then we're just trying to hold all the blessings the Lord's giving us. That's the third way. And those are just three of so many ways we can come to recognize the Lord. And when we do, we can experience the same joy and relief and love and awe that Mary experienced, that Thomas experienced, that John experienced, and so many other people have experienced. And we can say, if we borrow the words from the prophet Isaiah, this is our God. We have waited for Him, and He will save us. This is Jehovah. We have waited for Him. We will be glad and rejoice in His salvation. Amen.